Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
How good of a job is your receptionist doing? Specifically when it comes to new patient phone calls. And how do you know, and if they're not doing as good of a job as you'd like, what do you do about it? Well, this is a subject that's garnered quite a bit of attention. We've done 2 episodes on the subject of reception, and they actually happen to be 2 of our most listened to episodes. And if you've listened to those episodes, you'll remember that the national conversion rate, the average conversion rate in a dental practice, is 23%, meaning out of 100 new patient phone calls, the average office only converts 23 patients. So for this week's episode, we thought, why not give you the way that we grade a receptionist? As you may or may not know, we do mystery calls, and we have a series of 10 criteria we use to give your receptionist a grade. So we thought, you know what? Why don't we give it to you? So if you want, you can grade your receptionist yourself from time to time, or stay on top of how well your receptionist is doing. And that's what we're going to cover in this week's episode. My name is Jeff Bloomberg, and I'm your host. And joining me this week is Jeff Santone. Now, Jeff, I know I'm mentioning we're both named Jeff. Now, Jeff here, Jeff Santone, that is in charge of our expansion division here at MGE. He's actually owned 2 practices, an oral surgery practice and a general dental practice, and he has trained tons of receptionists. He's also done almost 1,000 mystery calls, so he knows the ins and outs of this and can tell you, how good of a job your receptionist is doing. And Jeff, I think we have you hooked up over there.
Yeah, I'm all hooked up. You hear me?
Yeah, hear you. Great. And I think this is a great episode in the sense of rather than going over, your receptionist is doing a bad job, which by the way, we will do a mystery call for you. It's a free service.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll make sure the link goes on the episode webpage. But rather than doing just that, Jeff, we were talking, and Jeff's just going to go over the 10 points he uses to grade a receptionist.
Yeah.
And so I say we just jump right into it.
Right
we can talk about each point, maybe go over some of the nuances. I might have some questions as we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's go.
So let's go. Let's first start by saying, look, there are hundreds of phone calls coming to the office in a week. If you're a smaller office, in a day if you're a larger office. And we're going to really focus in on the new patient phone call.
Sure.
It's the most valuable phone call to the practice. And you can get a good idea of what's going on in the practice if you look at what's the most valuable phone call and how are we treating it.
Sure.
There's indicators that then we're probably doing that to phone calls that may not be as valuable, but should still be treated with the same type of professionalism.
That's a good point.
So that's why we're only looking at the new patient. But you're going to apply this to every phone call.
Okay.
And the bigger you get and the more confidence you have in it and the more you delegate it out maybe to an office manager to do, they should randomly be selecting phone calls, not just new patient. But we're going to focus in on new patient.
Now, just as an aside, before you even get into this, and I want to push this too far because I hate those things where you go, we're going to talk about the 5 ways to do this. Then you have to listen to 10 minutes of whatever.
Yeah.
So I promise you won't have to fast forward long. But how often would you recommend, specifically new patient calls are listened to?
Man, new patient phone calls, if I was just getting into my call recording and I'm getting 10 new patients a week, I'd want to listen to half of those phone calls. I want to listen to at least 5.
Okay, so you listen to at least half of these when you.
Yeah.
What about with the newer receptionist? Are you listening more frequently?
I'm listening more frequently with the newer receptionist, and I'm also probably sitting next to that newer receptionist as well.
Fair enough.
So I'm listening that way too. But you said the schedule rate 23%.
Right.
So if I'm only getting 10 new patients, the value of that call log is that we talked about in other episodes.
Yeah.
You want to listen to the ones that they do schedule, but you also want to listen probably a little bit more to the ones that don't schedule.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
Figured I'd ask. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
So it's funny because we did an episode, I think, right at the beginning where we talked about, the 4 points you should get from every new patient.
Right.
And at the time, we were grading mystery phone calls, and we weren't telling everybody, how we were grading them. But that was a part of it. It was probably a good chunk, but there were other things in the phone call that we listened for. First and foremost, when they answer the phone,
just to clarify, this is point number 1.
This
right?
is point number 1.
This is a big deal. I'm a big list guy.
Yeah.
So point number 1. Go ahead.
Point number 1. When they pick up the phone, do they say the name of the practice clearly?
Okay.
All right. I can't tell you how many offices we call hello. Or it sounds like they got marbles in their mouth. No, 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 no.
You played me one of those recordings.
Yeah.
I couldn't even hear the person.
You can't even hear the person, right? So this is where point one and point two kind of like flow into each other.
Okay.
Point one is, look, at the very least, you should say the name of the practice. Do I know I'm calling the right place?
Got it. Okay.
Right? If I say hello and I'm looking for the laundromat and we start talking, and wait, what are you? I'm confused. Is this a dental office? So I would say 80% of those guys do a good job with that.
Okay. So is the phone, do they mention the name of the, so point one is, did they mention the name of the practice?
Right.
And do they say it clearly?
Do they say it clearly?
It's funny that, like, one thing I'll say about this, or just as to add, I mean, who would think of that would even be a problem? Like, I answer the phone and say, thank you for calling ABC Dental, or it's a great day at ABC Dental. And that I say it and you hear ABC Dental and that it's clear. Those are one of those things where, there are things that you expect to drop out, but those are things that could slip by somebody because they would never expect that to be dropping out. It would be, of course, the person saying the name of the practice.
Right. Like, that's a given.
Yeah.
Absolute given. And really, if you haven't given the front desk a script, and I don't recommend scripts in a lot of places, but a script for how to answer the phone is completely fine.
Sure.
Right. So, and in that script is a point one and point two. Point two is, did you say your name?
Okay. So thank you for calling ABC Dental. My name is Jeff. I can help you, or can I help you, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. How are you doing today? It's a great day to smile. Like, I hear some of these cheesy ones, which is totally fine. I get it. I love that about it. It's fine. But I find that to be a customer service point of view.
Okay.
It's a lot easier for me to hang up on you if I don't know who you are.
Okay. So
we're trying to get some type of friendship or relationship started. But if I just don't, hey, ABC Dental,
right, or doctor's office,
Dr. Smith's office, how can I help you? I find it's that point of professionalism. If you're a professional office, it's who are you, and it's okay. It's a couple times when I make these phone calls, if I ask for their name, they almost hesitate. You can hear a hesitate, like.
Wait, so they're saying the name of the practice clearly. Yeah. They did that part okay. Because you say about 80% of people get that right. So it means 20% it's, or
that's
whatever.
Right.
Okay. Then they won't say their name.
Yeah.
So then I'm just clarifying. Then you ask them, hi, what's your name?
Yeah.
And they don't answer you readily.
Yeah. There's a hesitation, like maybe I shouldn't give out my name, or at the end of the phone call.
We already know your name.
Yeah.
Internet.
Okay. It's like, well, what are you doing? What do you need my name for? It's like so strange. Yeah. So those are, while they're not huge points, if we're looking to polish and really be pro, I feel like they're big points, and a lot of times what I had to train my staff on was slow down, just slow down, capital oral and I mean, that's a long thing to say. So just say it slow. It's okay. The patient, the person on the other end, they'll wait for, all of the second and a half that it says to do that. And so those 2 points are big points, even though they seem small. They can be that little bit that might make me choose your practice over somebody else's. I've called 3 offices.
Sure.
Who did I speak to? That girl, Michelle, was really nice. What practice was that? Well, who were the other? I don't know who they were. I don't know their names. Somebody called Michelle back.
Okay, so that's point 1 and point 2.
Yeah.
What's point 3? Just
point 3. And now we're getting into like the meaty part of it, right? So we've got something where, well, not quite the meaty part. Let me back up. Really, maybe something to evaluate is really, well, how many rings did it take to pick up the phone?
Okay, so this is even before they pick up.
Yeah.
How many rings did it? So what is the ideal number of rings the phone should be picked up in?
2.
Okay, so 2 or less.
2 or less.
Okay.
Yeah. So that could have been 1.
Okay.
Sure. Fine. But those are like the 3 admin points that I'm listening to. The type of like, okay, well, before we even get into talking to the patient, getting some information from them, how long is it taking us to pick up the phone? When they do pick up the phone, is it clear that the patient or whoever's on the other end knows who they're calling and who they're speaking to?
Okay.
Right. So those 3 points we look at here. It's what I would grade my staff on. We had that policy. You have 2 phone rings to pick it up. After that, the next person,
Right. So if I'm busy
Right.
checking a patient out, the next person's getting it.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So you listen to that, because if it rings 5 times, it goes to voicemail. If I'm a new patient, I hang up.
Interesting. Now, just out of curiosity, since you grade these, you've done almost 1,000 of these calls.
Yeah.
And that's just, and the rest of the area, your division has done a bunch more.
Yeah.
So how often, I mean, again, you said 80% of the people say the practice name.
Yeah.
What percentage of people give their name? You may not know this exactly.
I don't know it exactly, but
If you had to estimate.
if I had to estimate, it was probably in that same range. That's 70 to
80%?
80%. Yeah, guys who say their name, and some of them are pleasant at the end when I get their name too.
Yeah.
It's a rush point. You can hear the rush in there.
Sure. They're speedy. They're going too fast.
They're going too fast.
Then how often is the phone answered in more than 2 rings?
I would say that's 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're calling during office hours.
Yeah.
You're not calling at 1 a.m. Obviously not.
No.
We don't work you guys that bad.
No.
But, so you're calling at a normal time when the office should be open.
That's
On
right.
Google, it says the office is open.
Right.
So 50% of the time, the phone is answered in 2 or less rings, and
Right.
50% it's more than 2 rings.
That's right.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah. So once you get those out of the way, we get into the meat of what are we looking for.
Okay. So how would that criteria break down? You got the first 3. What's number 4?
Number 4 is, did you get the patient's name?
Okay.
Right. This is a point that I noticed that, we call as usually shoppers.
Okay, so the conversion rate for you guys is going to be lower. I think we talked about in the episode where we went over this that the conversion rate for our mystery calls as a shopper is like under 5%, isn't it?
It's like 1%.
Really?
Yeah. We of the 1,000 phone calls that we've done, 10 of them we'd make an appointment.
Wow. Yeah, we don't actually make an appointment.
Yeah, we
That
never
would be
make
a
an
little
appointment,
trolly
but
and not show. You give them one last excuse, and then you have to bail.
Yeah, but I was like, I would make that appointment.
All right. So then the appointment rate is with shoppers, whole other problem, whole other story. There should not be a problem with shoppers. That's a viable opportunity, but fine.
Right.
Okay. So then they have to ask for your name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that go? So you're calling as a shopper. Are you going right off the bat? How much you charge for a crown?
Yeah. But, I call like aloof. I love to call aloof.
Okay.
Like I'm always like, do you guys do these dental crowns? These 274s? Like why I'm doing that is like I'm giving them the idea that they should know I've been somewhere else.
Okay, so you're giving them the CDT code.
Yeah, I'm giving them the CDT code. Yeah, at that point, it should be like for me, when anyone called my office, they're like, how much do you charge for a D60? I was like, well, the only place you ever got that code was by going to see another oral surgeon.
Sure.
So at that point, I know that you're a second opinion, even if you're a shopper or whatever, I don't care. But I'm trying to give them this idea. So I call aloof. That I might not know a lot about dentistry. I can't tell you how many times when I call, that is the immediate start of the conversation, and the office is now trying to be customer service, meaning like my job is to answer your question, but not answer it either. Like I don't want to tell you how much we charge, but I'm going to respond in a way that I'm going to answer. And it takes them out of their normal pattern or their habits, and I want to see if they could get it back on track.
Okay.
Right.
Because the first thing they should be doing is asking for the person's name and number in case we quote unquote get disconnected, right?
Yeah. How do you guys do crowns? Absolutely. Yeah. What's your name, by the way?
Yeah. Or do you mind if I get your name and number just in case we get disconnected?
What's your
blah,
name?
blah, blah. Okay, good. What is it you're looking for?
Right. Yeah. So once you get into that mode of calling around, there's you can almost literally hear it in the front desk, how there's a switch that flips where they're like, this is a shopper. I don't have time for this. I'm going to get this guy his answers or not. And they're going to decide, because all shoppers are just shopping for the best price anyway. I've got an existing patient standing in front of me. There's a new patient that just walked in. I've got a patient that's walking up. Like, let me get off this phone. Right?
So it's funny because if you're a listener, I want you to think, have you ever bought anything because it was on sale?
Right.
I guarantee you 100% of you have. You were a shopper at one point. So it is weird. This disdainfulness people have for shoppers as if there's something mentally deficient with them or they're a problem. There's nothing wrong, right? They're a shopper.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, they're just a person looking for how much things cost. And the other funny thing with a shopper too, and I've said this before, is if someone calls for the price of a crown, chances are, and they've been to another doctor's office, they didn't just decide they needed one from WebMD. They need more than one.
They need more than
They're
one.
not going to leave the other practice for one,
Right.
to save $200. They've
No.
been told they need 5.
Yeah.
So you've got this potential patient that needs 5 crowns.
Right.
And then you're just blowing them off.
Right.
Do a lot of folks, when you do that, when you go, okay, how much you charge for 27, whatever code you're using, a 274050, whatever you're using, when you give them the code, did they just give you the number and hang up?
Some of them, I've never been hung up on.
Well, not in a nasty, but
Yeah.
we charge $1,000. Thank you. Click.
No, I haven't had that.
Okay.
Haven't had that.
I've seen those.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
I've had it different. We've had other conversations of being hung up on, but that
was different.
That was totally different. But no, I tend to find that their first defense is don't give it out.
Okay, so we don't quote prices.
Yeah,
on the
we don't
phone.
quite price it over the phone. You got to come in. We need to do a consult. We need to do blah 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 blah.
Did they
blah,
even get that far? We need to do a consult?
Yeah, some will, but then they throw the extra barrier in there. Like I called somebody last week, and the other question that usually goes hand in hand with it is, do you have insurance? Well, first question, like, how much is a crown? Like, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. Well, do you have insurance? And it's kind of their way. If I say yes, where they're going to go, well, we don't know. I know exactly what they're going to say. I mean, I've been in the dental business, right? Like,
because they don't know if they're in your plan. or not in your
we
plan.
don't know. Well, MetLife is different for everybody, depending on blah, 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 blah. You could say whatever you want at that point
Sure.
to confuse the patient because they don't know either. But the minute I go, no, I'm fee for service.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, now they're like, oh, okay, good. Well, let's get you in for a consult. So I'm like, okay, well, how much is a consult? $285. I was like, wow, $285. I just went to see somebody. Meanwhile, they haven't got my name, right? We're just talking. I just went to see somebody, and I don't even want these things. So then I get into like, there's very little interest in me at this point, which is always a problem. So they're going down this path. They go, yeah, but we have an in-office plan. Yes, if you do the in-office plan, I'm telling you, this is like the route it goes, right? And meanwhile, they haven't got
So they don't know your name. They
They
don't
don't know
even
my name.
what,
They got a phone number.
They don't know what's wrong.
Nothing.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, nothing like
Who
that.
told you needed a crown?
Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how fast it devolves.
Now, what's
into
funny
that.
is the people answering the phone
yeah,
are most likely good people.
they're great people,
They just don't know what they're doing.
and they think I'm a shopper, so I'm motivated by price. So let's give this guy a deal somehow on our but they're not really answering my questions.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to kind of steer us back, because we
Yeah,
could
back.
go off on this
Yeah,
for
we went
2
off.
hours. Because no, we didn't go off too bad.
No, not
That
too
was
bad.
all right. So you want to find? Do they get your name?
Do they get my name and phone number?
Okay, so how often? Just again, I'm trying to grade this as we go through, since
Yeah.
you grade these all the time.
Yeah.
What percentage of offices do not get your name and phone number?
That's like 90%.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
90% of people do not ask you for your name and phone number.
No.
Yeah, now obviously, from my position in the organization, I know how our overall mystery call. I don't break down each one, but 90%.
90%, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. Now, what I think they might do, if I'm putting in information that I think they could be doing. If they have caller ID, they see so and so with a phone number. Maybe
Yeah, but I could be borrowing somebody's cell phone.
Totally. That's
So you're gonna call me up. Hi, Rhonda. What?
yeah.
I'm
Who are you?
Jeff.
Yeah.
no.
Are you sure you didn't call him? Blah blah blah. So I can only suppose that's what they're doing. But
Yeah, what if I borrow my friend Bill's
right.
cell phone?
or if I'm calling from work,
Yeah.
or
For Acme Manufacturing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great. Good luck. So that's why you always want to make sure you get their name and their phone number.
It's also more personal. You've given your name.
Yeah.
You asked for their name. You've actually
Right.
introduced one. We used to do that.
Yeah.
You introduce yourself. I learned that early on as a child.
Yeah. It's basic manners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like if you're going to come to this office and spend 4 crowns worth of work, which could be $6,000 in some practices, could be 8, could be 4 in others. So we want to get the name and the phone number.
Okay.
We're getting these are like the meaty things.
And I
like-
know it's hard to sequence them a little bit because they
Right.
all kind of interrelate, but that's point number 4, right?
Yeah, so
do
we-
they get the name and number?
that's 4 and 5.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So name and number is like huge.
Okay.
'Cause
And I
if-
know the next ones are big parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, the next part, and these are the things that are making up the majority of your grade.
Okay.
Right. Name, phone number, because if it goes wrong, at least I know who you are and I can call you back.
Sure. Okay. So let's say we've done that or not done that. What happens next?
Then you want to get, these are the things you want to get out of the way. The last thing you want to get out of the way before we get to point number 7. So this is point number 6, right?
Sure. Yeah.
is
Remember, I'm a big list fan.
yeah. This is point number 6.
Yes.
How'd you hear about us? What made you call my office? Why? Did you see a billboard that we're paying $10,000 for?
Yeah.
Did you get a postcard? Did you
Can
Google
you please
us?
help me make my marketing work, please?
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
tell me.
I like spending money on just random things that aren't working.
That's right. Yeah. So how'd you hear about us? And so that's a huge part of analysis of your marketing budget, right?
Okay.
So like the office wants that data. Like the office manager and owner should want that data. If you're not spending money on marketing, or you don't think you trust me, you are. You just don't know it. And if you are spending money on marketing, I can guarantee you the listeners here have had failed marketing campaigns.
All right, so we're checking these as you go down. It's 1.6 now, right?
0.6,
How did you hear about us?
Yep.
What percentage ask, how did you hear about us? If you had to estimate.
1%.
Yeah, no, you gave me this blank look, and I'm like, what, did you forget, Jeff? It's just nobody, you had to think, did anybody ever do it?
Did anybody ever do it? Yeah, it'd be that 1%.
That's so sad.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's this, I'm in complete control of the conversation as the new patient.
Okay.
And so the front desk has lost control, never had control in the first place, and doesn't know how to get it back to ask that question.
Interesting. And by the way, we have, we've talked about these before. If you want, we have free downloads for the new patient call log that Jeff mentioned, which has that in there. How do you hear about us? And also we have like an intake form, which all the questions you'd want to ask a new patient, or most of them.
Right.
You might want to customize it for yourself, which has that on there as well.
Yeah.
You can download, just go to the episode webpage and download it. But so nobody really asks this.
No.
So yeah, if I'm doing a Google pay-per-click campaign, unless it has a specific number people are calling in on,
right?
In which case I then have to do the work to go figure out who called and who didn't. It should be more of a verification thing, not a record-keeping thing.
That's right.
Then I'm not going to know what marketing is working and what isn't. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Because this is a non-optional point. Because you hear, you might even instruct your receptionist to do this, and they're, I forgot.
Yeah.
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 How did you handle this?
When I was doing it?
Yeah. With your receptionists, because I know you trained quite a few.
Yeah.
And they were really good. But so did you ever have it when they were new? They're like, oh, yeah, I forgot to ask that or whatever.
Yeah. Couple things. I role played with my receptionist a lot.
Okay.
Like I didn't wait for the phone to ring to drill them on this.
Okay.
Like I would sit down with them and I would be
like you play act, you do different scenarios.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, good.
And
so
then,
it was like just in there.
Yeah. And then once in a while I'd have like my brother or somebody call the office and pretend to be a new patient.
Sure.
See how they handled it. Okay. Because you could get flustered when you're doing when you get a real person versus drilling. But the drilling that role playing should help.
Yeah, it should nail a good 85% of the issues, especially this isn't like a high intensity thing. So
it also helps if you have that new patient call log in front of you.
Right.
So it's set up in a way that I would teach them, look, you're just filling this out left to right.
Yeah.
Right. And your last thing is, did they make the appointment? Right. So all this other stuff should be filled out before you get to there.
Kind of jogs your memory each time so you don't forget.
This is what you're filling out when you take this new patient intake form.
That makes sense.
And you can even circle back to it. There's tons of ways to do it, you know, with a way that's conversational.
Okay. But so we've gotten through the first 6 points. Truthfully, that's the first, 10 seconds of the conversation. Like I answer the phone. It's a great day at Acme Dental. My name is Jeff. Can I help you, or I can help you, or whatever? And you go, yeah, I want.
How much is a crown?
No problem. Be happy to answer your question. Do you mind if I get your name and number first?
Sure.
Okay, and I get your, just in case we get disconnected. Okay, good. So Jeff, if you don't mind me asking you one more question before we get into this, how did you hear about us?
Oh, my coworker Joe comes to your practice.
Joe, what was the last name?
Joe Smith.
Joe Smith. Okay, great. Well, good on Joe. Okay, good. So now you say you're looking for how much crown is. Like, okay, so that took 5 seconds.
It really is that easy.
I don't know how long exactly, but it was pretty short.
It was very short.
That's 6 out of 10 criteria.
Yeah, but they're so important.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and you can really, because I think it happens so fast. That's how you tend to miss them. And if you don't have the cues in front of you, you know, like that call log, it's really easy. I mean, I could do this.
Well, you should be able to do this sort of in your sleep.
Yeah, and a good receptionist knows how to do it.
But they just have to know what they're doing.
That's right.
Okay, good. So now, what's point number 7?
All right. So once you've gotten through that, you want to establish yourself as an office that's not here just to be here. Like we're actually interested in the public and, you know, people at large. Like we love what we do.
So what do you call this specific criteria on the grading sheet?
And mine was, did you find out why the patient's calling? Reason for their call.
Got it. Reason for a call.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that should be your interest point. Like, that's where you should be like, well, why are you calling? Well, who said you needed that? Like, are you in any pain? I mean, I do this with one of my staff and, Andrew, and he likes to do his. He's always in pain. And, not like excruciating pain.
Yeah. Where they tell him to call the
but
ER.
it's been bothering me. It's dull. Well, I'll get you in 2 months.
Got it.
It's like,
Has someone actually said that?
Yes.
If they're in pain?
yeah.
Like it's an actual emergency.
It's an actual, like,
today?
yeah, well, is it bothering you? Well, I mean, it hurts off and on. I've been taking, the Advil for it, having difficulty sleeping. Okay, good. Well, we can get you in 2 weeks, 2 months, 3.
Okay,
Like,
they're not going to call another office.
You can make that appointment, but the minute I hang up, I'm calling the next office.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so degree of interest. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this one for a second.
Yeah.
So, like, what would we want to see minimally, and would we want to see? So, obviously, I've got your name.
Yeah.
You've told me you're calling to find out what the price of a crown is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess my natural next question would be, well, who told you needed a crown?
Right. Yeah. Why do you think you need that?
Yeah, because I was on WebMD, and okay, in which case, fine. Or could you go to another dentist tell you needed a crown?
Right.
And then I'd ask probably where in your mouth it was.
Yep.
Because I'm probably going to find out you need more than one.
That's right.
I'm going to ask if you're in pain. Is it
Yeah.
sensitive to hot or cold?
Right.
I'm going to ask all these questions to find out a little bit more about you, because also at the same time, I'm establishing rapport,
Right.
And I'm going to stand out from the other offices who
That's right.
treated you like garbage when you called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And that's what's going to make me, even if you're more expensive, which when I did the mystery call, I always said that you were less expensive no matter what you said.
Interesting. Okay.
So you're establishing that rapport in hopes, and really the goal of the whole phone call is to schedule the patient.
Yeah. I think that's the where, well, you obviously know where it goes wrong, and I know you're going to
Yeah.
share that with us, but obviously, that's kind of the object.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, you're establishing that rapport, and it's a natural conversation at that point. That rapport should lead you right into, well, you should come in and see our doctor.
Yeah, because I know, the point that's hung up, usually when I see, when we've posted stuff on Facebook or whatever, post about
Right.
this, or, we've had Dan record some of his mystery calls on video and
Yeah,
play
yeah.
them, and you'll have, I would never give a price out over the phone, the different comments you get, right? So you get people sticking on, I would never give a price out over the phone.
Right.
Or, how can you tell if a patient needs a crown? Well, you can't. And I think that's a great way to hook somebody in a
Yeah.
way. So, well, I just went to this dentist. They told me I needed 4 crowns, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Because then the front desk can say something like, look, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
So, well, not necessarily like that, but they can go, well, look, here's the deal. I'm not a doctor. And obviously our doctor is going to want to look at you because we don't really know what you need.
Right.
Who knows if you need a crown or not? We have to see you.
Yeah.
And, do you have your x-rays you can bring with you, or we charge, $29 or $30 for an x-ray or whatever
Right.
it is. Why don't you come in and we'll have a look at you for a free consultation?
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah, easy. And in a lot of cases, what I've seen in those cases when I've listened to these mystery calls, a person won't even ask for the price anymore.
No.
Yeah.
They're just sold on coming in.
Yeah, they just want to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And you get them in ASAP.
Yeah, you've done a good job of building that rapport. They know your office is different from the 3 other offices they've called. You're willing to give out that sometimes free consult and an X-ray.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. Like where do offices get into problems?
That's where I wanted to find out, because we're kind of now playing it how it should go. So, we've got to the point where I've got your name. I said
Yeah.
the name of the practice clearly.
Right,
I
yeah.
found out what your problem is.
Right.
We've discussed if you're in pain and stuff
Right.
like that. And I go, okay, Jeff, so look, I can't judge what you have. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And our doctor is going to want to see you.
Yep.
So here's what I suggest we do. Who knows if you need a crown?
Right.
Right? Because then that kind of negates the whole price question at that point, because we don't even know what you need.
Right.
But then if the person still sticks, well, okay, that sounds fine, but what do you charge for a crown? You give them a range.
Right.
What's the lowest price you have for a crown to the highest with a build-up, And fine. No big deal. Like, you don't make it this big, mystery, or,
Right.
this isn't, some mystery nobody's supposed to know about,
Exactly. Yeah.
But so that's how it should play out.
That's right.
So now this is where I wanted to ask you, what do you normally see? Like, how does it actually play out? Where does this go wrong?
Where it goes wrong, I think, in a few spots, but it goes wrong right off the bat, where most front desks have been trained. Like with shoppers, try not to give out a fee.
Okay.
So then what happens, I've noticed, is that And they're really trying to do a good job. You know, if I listen to them, 80% of the calls are pleasant. They're just pleasantly not scheduling people. You know, this is what we laugh about all the time. But they're trying to be pleasant and be professional, but this isn't customer service. Like, the reason I'm calling isn't because this is fun for me.
Right.
Like, I really have a problem. I'm putting in front of my problem, how much is a crown? Do you guys do implants? You know, how much, like, in front of that, what my real issue is, I'm asking this question. Do you take my insurance? Yada, 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 right? And the front desk has been so conditioned to just be customer service that they're avoiding trying to give out an answer that's wrong or negative. Sure. Right? Because then the patient hangs up. But in doing so, they back themselves into a corner of which they can't get out. So let me give you an example. And these are my favorite ones. Okay, so I'm a price shopper. I call and I play stupid. You know, like, do you guys do crown? And, and they're always like, it's always funny. They're always, you mean dental crowns? I was like, yes. They're like, yeah, we do those. Like, that's a stupid question, right? And I was like, oh, okay, good. How much? So then I go, how much is it?
Sure.
Now, they've been conditioned. Now, I put them on the spot. I put them in a position where they're going to have to answer. They don't want to answer. So my most common response to that is, well, it depends on the type of crown.
Which, okay.
Now, when I play that for a doctor, I'm like, now, do you do different types of crowns? The majority of them are no.
Yeah, they're not doing a lot of stainless steel crowns.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, no. And then I'm like, well, then why do you think the front desk says that? And they're like, I don't know. And I was like, they're trying to avoid answering my question.
Yeah, they're kind of caught flat-footed there.
So then me, as the shopper, I go, ooh, this is what type of crowns are there?
Oh,
you know, because now I got to place.
There's zirconium crowns.
Yeah, like if I don't know, like, because you got to remember that the average patient, they don't know any of this stuff, or that there could be different types of crowns. So now I play right into that. If someone says, like, what type of crown, I go, oh, there's other types of. I didn't even know. I don't know what my doctor even had. What type of crowns are there?
Oh no.
And now they're like, uh-oh, because now they're going to have to try to explain something that's not true, one. Two, that they don't know anything about.
Sure.
And the call's done at that point.
So what kind of answers do you get at that point?
I get ramblings.
Okay.
Oh, well, we do all this. We do this type of crown, this type of crown, that type of crown, right? They don't know. Well, it all depends. And then it turns, it's funny because I can hear, like, you can hear the stress now in them. Like, uh-oh, what did I just say? No one's ever called me on this. So that's problem number one.
So let's just to correct it. Yeah. So if somebody says, how much you charge for a crown?
Yeah.
The next question, just for those out there, should be, happy to answer that question for you. Yeah. Can I get your name and number?
Yes.
And then ask them, well, okay.
Right.
What makes you think you need a crown?
What makes you at our new patient workshop, we drill this. We teach the office how to drill that a bit. Okay. And I'm going to tell you.
By the way, I'll put the link to the new patient workshop, which Jeff delivers half of, by the way. Jeff Santone with Dan Brown. It's an awesome workshop. It's done virtually. You can do it anywhere on the planet. I'll put the link on the episode webpage. Sorry. Go ahead.
So good. What I would teach my staff is like, because sometimes there's a lot of scenarios that can come up. The questions that can come up are ridiculous sometimes from a new patient. Like, you never know. My standard response to any new patient question was always the same. That's a great question.
Okay.
And the more I needed to think about how I was going to spin this and take control of the conversation, the slower I said it.
That's a great question.
Wow, that's a fantastic question. I don't think we've ever had that one. And what I'm trying to think of is like, well, how am I going to handle that in a way without saying no, but taking control of the conversation?
Sure.
So if the front desk would just give that acknowledgement like that, hey, man, that's a great question. We get that a lot, and I'm going to answer that for you. But let me ask you a few questions. And
you mind if I ask you a few questions first?
Yeah. Before I give you that, right? And
most
people are like, oh, I'm going to get the price of a crown. Absolutely,
right. So you get that one.
I get that one. The other one I get is depends on the area. Like,
wait. So how much is a crown? It depends on the area.
Depends on the area. So then I'm like,
they're referring to where it is in the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
I go, what do you mean? There's different pricings? Oh, yeah. And I go, well, it's a back tooth. Long pause.
Because they weren't expecting.
Yeah, they weren't expecting. Yeah, like, oh no. Long pause. Like, what do I say now? Right. And then they usually spin that into, well, it's a good idea to come in. That's why we have a console, blah, blah, blah. It always turns into not getting the information and how do I get this guy in, or just, get him from spotting the fact that I don't really know. And when I play that for the doctors, again, do you charge different prices for different areas? No. So then why is your front desk saying that?
I mean, you can see they're stalling for time, but their better bet is, tell them you'll answer their questions and just find out, build that rapport by asking questions yourself and really, I guess, really understanding what's going on with this. This is a person.
Yeah.
They have something going on.
Yeah.
What is it?
And that's the most important part. That's really what I try to explain to my front desk is like, look, we're not here to be fine, your title's receptionist, new patient coordinator, but but we're not here to be customer service. You're here because if a guy calls our office, they need our help. Your job is to find out why they need our help. And to do that, you're going to have to take control of the conversation. The minute they call in, they fire off a question, they're in control of the conversation. You have to give them a really good acknowledgement that's going to get them to listen to you and answer your questions. So that's a huge part of any question that comes in. I mean, the most common questions are, do you take my insurance? Right off the bat, are you an in-network provider and you're really trying to avoid any type of no. Any type of no is a hang up immediately. So we're trying to avoid saying no. And I know the front desks know that and they're trying their best, but that's where it goes wrong. And it also, I've seen it go wrong where the front desk will get off on a tangent a little bit when I don't have insurance about their plan in network, their in-office plan.
Just tell me that when I get into practice. Yeah. Just get me in.
Yeah. You could come in, you pay $27 a month. Now they're trying to sell this plan, but I'm 4 crowns and an ortho case. Right. So it's like, just get me in. The other thing is they're not making it easy to be a new patient. What do you mean? Well, now listen, to a credit of a lot of offices, I would say a good 20 to 25% actually have a free consult. But what they don't have is a free x-ray. Okay, like one x-ray or – Yeah, so it's a little bit of a little bit of bait and switch. And so I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're telling the person it's free, but it's not really free. Because if I show up and I need x-rays, you're charging me for x-rays. Well, in a lot of cases, people will bring their own x-rays, especially now in the digital age. It's not like I'm having to go and get them to copy my or just send me my x-ray. Send your x-ray. I'm going to tell you at our office, while we would accept x-rays, every doctor always takes their own anyway. Yeah. So my viewpoint was, look, if you're going to offer the free consult, offer the free x-ray. The chances are the guy has an x-ray. Well, or 1 or 2 PAs isn't, especially it's not going to kill you. Isn't going to cost you anything. It's not going to cost you anything. Yeah. And then my thought was, okay, good. So I'm going to delay this patient from coming in till he can get the x-rays. Right. He'll get the x-rays. When he comes in, I know my doctor's going to look at the x-rays and go, these aren't good enough. Let's take new x-rays. And I'm not going to charge him for those x-rays anyway. So I might as well cut out the time. Right. That makes sense. But the reason most offices don't do that is they're not authorized to do that. Yeah, it has to be a practice policy. Ownership has not made it known that it's okay to do that. And I don't say advertise it, but the front desk has to know in their hip pocket they can do that. Well, I think even for like a second opinion, because truthfully a second opinion, we talk about this in the sales seminars, the second opinion is easier to close than a so much easier brand new patient. Yeah, why not? If you need to take a few x-rays, what's the big deal? What's the big and one for one, if I talk to a doctor, I'm like, now look, they quoted me $249, but you just heard I was 4 crowns and an ortho case. Would you have just had me come in for free? Yes. Of course. So then why isn't the front desk doing that? And they have to think really long and hard. And usually they don't have the answer. Well, they're not. I'm not. If I'm a front, I'm not going to authorize that myself and get in trouble. That's what that's what I try to explain to them. Is like, no. They have this idea, and that's where I'm like back in my front desk here. Like they've been put into a corner a bit sometimes. Because what will happen is some front desk will make that decision, then they bring in a patient that ends up being a problem patient, and now the doctor's like, we didn't charge him. Who made that call? So then that's the last time I ever do that. Yeah, I mean, unless it's a regular old new patient initial, which obviously you should charge for. Right. But you could have a new patient special. Yeah, you could have a new patient special. But for something like this, if someone's calling in pain or this, that, I mean, obviously an emergency patient you're going to charge. But if a person, maybe not in pain, but it's a person calling in, how much is this? Can I have a second opinion? Right. Yeah, why charge? Yeah. Get him in. Yeah. So, that's where I've seen it really go wrong is just the inability of the front desk to take control of the conversation. And they're responding in such a way that puts them into a position that they can't answer. And their only now solution is to just get the person scheduled without answering their questions.
Which then they normally don't schedule. All right, so we've got our criteria. Point 7 was where we're getting into did they find out what the patient's problem was, right?
Yeah.
Point 8 was
did you attempt to schedule me?
Did you attempt to schedule?
Yep.
And point 9?
Point 9, it's point 9 is
I realized we'd gone completely off.
Yeah,
so I had to bring us back. No, that's my fault too.
Yeah, point 9, it's objective. It's subjective, I guess, to a degree. But this is where, are they pleasant? Like, was the phone call, if you listen to that phone call, did you find that person, your staff member, your front desk, whoever picked up the phone, were they pleasant?
Like helpful, accommodating.
Yeah. Or were they rude? Were they curt? Were they and this is where every doctor who listens to phone calls needs to remove themselves from the fact that this is their practice and grade it, like it's somebody else's. Like, would you hire that person?
Right.
And it's funny because we do this at the New Patient Workshop. I play a mystery call that we've done, which is like hands down the worst mystery call, right?
Sure.
And so we go through the criteria and I have them grade it, and blah, blah, blah. And we always get to, were they pleasant? I have them give them a thumbs up, a thumbs down, and a thumbs middle, right? So if I have 10 guys there, I would say maybe 5 of them are thumbs down, and 3 are thumbs middle, and 2 are thumbs up.
And the mystery call, the receptionist is not pleasant.
Awful. Just absolutely awful. Cuts
so 2
me
of
off.
them give them a thumbs up.
Yeah. And so, and I'm like, so I always call them on it. I'm like, okay, good. The guys that give me a thumbs up and thumbs middle, would you hire this person? Oh, no. I was like, well, then why are you giving a thumbs up? And, like, that's the way you need to look at it. And so, there's many reasons staff can be unpleasant. You caught them on a bad day. There's 3 people standing in front of them, and of course they sound rushed. And there's a staffing issue in general. So they're picking up the phone, they're running the lab, they're doing this. So there's a lot of reasons that can happen. But you're listening for that because if normally, Mike is a great guy or Susan's awesome, but you're listening to these calls and you start to notice a pattern. Under pressure, maybe they react differently. Why are they under that pressure? Like what's going on at the front desk at that moment that they feel that way.
Right. And one thing I wanted to ask you just actually jogged my memory on it because I just wanted to survey you on this since you've done so many of these. How often when you make these mystery calls, does the person have to put you on hold, answer another patient's question, have to say, hold on a sec while they handle something else? Like what percentage of the time is that happening?
It's about 20% of the time. Really? Yeah, you're put on hold, especially if I force them to get me a price.
Okay.
They'll have to hold on, let me get something for
But do you find like a lot of the receptionists you're calling end up like they're trying to check patients out at the same time, or they're doing this at the same time or that at the same time?
I know they're doing other things at the same time. They haven't put me on
sound
hold.
Distracted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you can hear it going in the background. You hear the other phones ringing. You can hear the phone ringing. Like that means nobody else is picking up. Means they're the only person that's picking
they're
it up.
Freaking out probably a little bit.
Yeah.
And this was just a point I wanted to latch onto for a second, and whether it is applicable in this podcast or not, whatever, because we're kind of going over these 10 points to grade, which we've gone through all 9.
We've gone through 9.
Which is the 10th point, just out of curiosity?
Pass, fail.
Pass or fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so then you have other little criteria you add into this, but you've got at least those are the basics.
Those are the basics. Yeah.
Okay. Now, just to bring this in, because obviously that was the whole purpose of the podcast, go to 10 points. But so you showed me a mystery call, and I don't know how you ended up doing this mystery call. It was somehow it was a corporate office or something like this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And because normally we don't work with corporate.
Right.
You ended up doing it. I don't remember what happened. We thought it wasn't or something. And you played it and you said, like, this is why – I remember you sent me the email, and this is why docs have trouble with corporate. Yeah. Because this person was dynamite.
Awesome.
But they also were completely undistracted.
They were completely undistracted. You could tell, like, even though the phone call that the guy who put it in is for a big corporate chain, by the way.
Okay.
I won't name who they are, but you could tell that there was a call center designed to handle certain of the office's phone calls, right? This woman scheduled me, even though I tried not to be scheduled. I tried the.
Did you have to call back and cancel?
Yes, she was bad. Like, she got all the information, like she got all this data. So she goes, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I got an email. I got a I had to call and cancel it. And it was ridiculous. And I got off that phone call and I was like, well, this is why corporate causes issues.
So what
they're
they lack
heavily
in
invested
in the customer service area, and they make up for capitalization and things like this.
Yeah, little things like this. They know how to do that really well. Like, and you could tell they clearly invested in it. Like that new patient phone call is very, very important to that corporate.
How soon were they going to get you in, by the way, out of curiosity?
But they would have got me in that day if I could have. And I was like, well, let me check my schedule for Tuesday. She's like, I'll just put you in for Tuesday. I was like, no, don't do that. Well, it's better to do that than call me back and it's not available. So I'm going to put you in. You'll get. I was like, she was phenomenal.
So this is something to think with because this would definitely sort of kneecap your receptionist. They could be good, but part of that fluster or that feeling flustered might be they're doing 5 things at once. So I guess the lesson from this is they should really look at their call volume.
Yeah, they got to look at their call volume, and the last point of it that we it's like pass fail. It's savage in its grading, right? Yeah. It's like either you scheduled me or you didn't.
Right, because we have a whole algorithm where you come out with a score anywhere from I guess probably it can't be 0. I think it's like 1 or 2 to 100.
Yeah. So it means that you can have somebody who does a lot of things really well and just for some reason can't get the person to schedule.
Interesting.
It also means you could have people that do things very poorly but can schedule. Right. Like somehow they miss a lot of this stuff, but ultimately get people to schedule. Right. So you're giving out those points for that reason, and you're gonna what will ultimately happen? And you're not going to grade this one off. Mm-hmm. You're looking for a pattern. There's always a pattern that emerges when I listen to my phone calls. There was something clearly that the person had a hard time handling or just didn't know what to say. So I would just, when I've noticed and I got the pattern, then I drilled them on that outpoint.
You handle that specific thing. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was always something there. So listen to the calls and then really listen to the calls, because I think we talk about this. You do it at the seminar.
Oh, a survey. How many people listen to half the hands go up, if that, and then it's maybe 1 out of 150 people. Doctors listen once a week, or office managers.
It doesn't take long if you were to and that's why I say you start with the new patient call, because this is the most valuable call.
Sure.
So if you listen to 5 that did schedule and 5 that didn't schedule, you'll start to notice something. You could do it by staff member, depending on, who's picking up the phone. Sure. Right. But they really should start listening to calls.
Well, and I don't know how many times we can say it, but I'll say it again. All marketing is going to do is get you a phone call or a response.
That's it.
So how you handle that determines whether that marketing response becomes a new patient. Right. So you could have the most killer marketing in the world, and you just blow it at the front. Yeah. And you're seeing 1/10 of what you could. So then it destroys your return on investment. It destroys your acquisition cost per patient. And it's super easy to handle because in a lot of cases the people are willing. The receptionists want to get better. I mean, who would? Well, I want to be worse. Right. Yeah, You're only getting 23%. Well, I want 10. I mean, no one wants that. No. They want to be at 50, 60, 70, 80. So there's a lot of willingness there. Yeah. So it's silly. It's a complete waste of money.
Yeah. It's a total waste.
Yeah.
And why I say start there is because if you're handling the most valuable phone call poorly, chances are you're also handling existing phone calls poorly. You're handling referrals poorly. You're handling, even though, so vendors, but some of these vendors are guys you do want to talk to.
Well, that's also your kind of your community reputation to a degree. Right. If everybody thinks when they call your office they're going to be treated like garbage. It's not going to get you good rep.
Not going to get you anywhere,
It's not great.
Yeah, so it's fun, but I would do it on a weekly basis, randomly listen to calls of your new patients and then expand from there.
Okay, fair enough. And you guys, obviously, if you're listening and you would like someone like Jeff or one of Jeff's team to do a mystery call for your practice and give you their grade, again, I have the link for the mystery call service on the episode webpage. You just click it, fill it out, and you'll be getting a phone call from somebody trying to make an appointment. Now you're going to have to, if anybody listens, you're going to have to be a little bit different if the response came from the podcast. You can't call and go, how much is a crown?
I'll figure something out.
Andrew can't be in pain. If you're talking to a British guy, he sounds like he's in pain. Actually, that'd be funny if it's someone who just sounds like you and it's an actual patient.
That's what they don't know. See,
exactly.
They can't be sure.
Especially, hey, I know who you are. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thanks
and
for
we'll
having
also put this criteria. God, I have a lot of downloads this week. We have, let me just catalog. We got the call log. Mm-hmm. inquiry, the intake form.
Yep.
We'll put this 10-point criteria
Yep.
as a download as well. You can download it all at once, as well as a link for the mystery call and the new patient workshop. If you want to find out more about those, don't forget those are on the episode webpage. Again, Jeff, awesome to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
Great to do another show with you again. And folks, if you have any questions about MGE, you can find us online at mgeonline.com, or you can call us at 800-640-1140. That's all we have for you this week. We will see you at the next episode. Take care.